Hello there, I'm Black Bright News, and I wanted to talk about this today. Metro thump the gazumpers. For those of you who do not know what a gazumper is, it's somebody who says they're going to buy your house. You pay the survey fees and you start your solicitors fees and you start forking out all this money. You do all what's necessary. They wait till the last minute to pull out. That's what they call a gazumper. I don't know why it's called gazumping, but that is the long and short of it. What Keir Starmer is saying, which I'm pleased to hear, is that he's going to start making it difficult. Well, there won't be no gazumpers. They're going to be subject to fines. There's going to be a conditional contract, all that kind of thing. But it's not Keir Starmer's idea, is it? It came from America when I lived in America and I bought a home in America. And what was different about in America, well, this was New Jersey, was that you actually committed yourself as soon as you decided to buy the house. It was kind of back to front. You actually completed, and then everything else came afterwards. So you couldn't pull out. If you did pull out, you'd have these heavy fines. So that is how they do it. It seems a bit like that what Keir Starmer's doing. He's not doing it back to front, but he is more or less ensuring that it's less stressful, that people cannot say they're going to buy your house and then at the last minute they pull out because they get a better deal elsewhere after you've forked out all those thousands of pounds. House buying can be one of the most stressful, well, they say it is, one of the most stressful things you'll ever do. And when you're thinking you're investing so much money, it's one of your biggest investments. That is, if it is an investment. When you go into recession, sometimes you lose out. But for the most part, over a period of years, it becomes an investment. Now, I had a friend who was buying a house. No, she was selling her house. And she was downsizing. And this was in March last year. February, March last year. She said, oh, look, I've sold my house and I've got a first-time buyer and I'm going to be exchanging at the end of March. Anyway, it was an unrealistic date that she gave me. And I said, look, I've worked in conveyancing. I've done it for years. I said, there's no way you can be putting your house on the market, have a buyer, even if they're a cash buyer, and you're going to exchange in 3 weeks. It's practically impossible. Unless, of course, there's no chains. And even then, 3 weeks is unreasonable because there's too much. You've got to do all these searches. You've got to check the title. And solicitors, even though we live in a digital age, they still tend to be a bit more traditional. There are quicker ways in order to gather information than there used to be when I was working for solicitors. But it's still a process, and there's no way you're going to exchange within 3 weeks. Anyway, she didn't listen to me. She puts all her stuff in storage. She starts selling all her stuff online because where she's moving, she's moving down. And I understand you need to do that anyway. But, I just wanted her to be a bit more cautious, wait until she'd actually spoken to the solicitors because she was taking the word of the estate agents. The estate agents, all they're interested in is their commission, most of them. That's how they live. So the quicker, the more assurance they can give you that the house is going to go through and that you have a first-time buyer, then, it's good for them. You're going to hang on, and they keep you hanging on. There's just this to do or just that to do. It turns out that this first-time buyer wasn't a first-time buyer. She was selling. It was a first-time buyer that was selling her home, that was buying her home but she had a shared ownership, or it was back to front. But there was a chain. And there wasn't just a chain of one person. There was a chain of 3 people. So not only did her buyer, have to sell her house before she could buy my friend's house, but she also needed somebody to buy her house in order to buy my friend's house. And the buyer of her house needed to sell her house in order to buy the previous buyer's house. Anyway, you know how chains work. Once you're in a chain, there is no guarantee how long your property is going to take to sell. That's why they prefer first-time buyers, and that you always look for no chains, because if there's a chain, there's no guarantee. Anyone in that chain, something can happen and it falls through, and your home falls through as well. Your purchase falls through. Anyway, the long and short of it is that her papers wasn't ready. This one that said, oh, we're going to exchange at the end of the month. And when my friend said that's unreasonable, I can't do it then, she said, oh, well, you have to pay the estate agent's fees then. My friend agrees to pay. She hadn't spoken to me, of course. She's just telling me after the fact. Agrees that she's going to pay the estate agent's fee if they don't exchange at the end of March. Anyway, the person who was making all these rules and all these conditions, turns out that she doesn't even have all the paperwork, and that her mortgage was 40 and she had to redo the mortgage. It took her, for somebody who thought she was going to exchange in March and put all her stuff in storage and sold all her furniture, she was living in the house with just one chair and the TV, 6 months. She just completed the other day. And she's lucky that the house that she was buying was still available. They could have said, look, you're taking too long. Forget it. But anyway, I think not only should there be something in place for people not to be able to pull out, but there should be something in place for to promote people from acting quickly and swiftly. Stop dragging your feet so that because you're getting paid by the hour, you drag your feet, you do extra letters and all that kind of stuff. I think that everything should be done as speedily as possible and as efficiently as possible. That would be good if they could do that, because that would take the stress out of house buying. Let me see what else I've got here. Keir Starmer's talking about get vital details about properties up front. You do get vital details, but people lie, or people don't realise what is considered vital. And because they don't have all their documents, or they can't find all their documents, there's delays. So, what else have I got? Buying a house is a gamble, and you never know what's going to happen on the route to buying a house, and that's why it's so stressful. People, especially first-time buyers, they don't have a clue of what can go wrong when you're buying a house. They've just seen the house, they're excited, and they think it's just a question of buying a house. The seller wants to sell the house, and that's all there is to it. If there's anything funky going on with the lease or with the deeds or with pathways and goodness knows what else, you don't know what can go wrong. And like I said, buying a house with a chain, that's also risky. You've got dishonest buyers. How many in a chain? They don't normally tell you. They say they're ready to go when they're not. But Keir Starmer says he's going to make sure it's not a nightmare when you buy your dream home. Well, let's hope so. But I think it's a good idea. It's a start anyway to taking pressure off of individuals when they're buying houses. So your thoughts would be appreciated. What do you think? And that's all for now. Bye-bye.